Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into something truly chilling, the world of criminal frame-ups. We're going to break down how lies are built, how justice is twisted, and how an innocent person's life can be destroyed from the inside out.
I want you to imagine something for a second. You're accused of a crime you absolutely did not commit, but all the evidence points right at you. The problem is, all of it, every last piece, was a lie, planted there on purpose. This isn't just a simple mistake, it's a lie that's been turned into a weapon.
And that right there is the key word, intentional. This isn't some accident or a case of someone looking like the real culprit. No, a frame-up is a calculated, deliberate act. It's like a stage play where the goal is to fool everyone and corrupt the entire system of justice.
All right, so let's really get into the anatomy of this thing. To understand how something this awful can even happen, you gotta ask two questions. Who is doing this? And maybe even more importantly, why?
Well, sometimes it's private citizens. People motivated by the old classics, revenge, money, greed. But here's where it gets really, really scary. Sometimes it's the people inside the system, the state actors who are pulling the strings, maybe to cover up their own mistakes or because they're convinced they need to fix a case the courts got wrong.
And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head. It's this awful two-for-one failure. Not only does an innocent person go to jail, but the person who actually did the crime gets to walk free. It's a total breakdown of justice.
Okay, so how do they do it? How do you actually build a lie so convincing that it can fool judges, juries, everyone? Well, it turns out there's a pretty specific toolkit they use.
It really boils down to two main approaches. On one hand, you've got the physical stuff, planting a weapon, faking a document, even creating a scarily realistic deepfake video. And on the other hand, you have the human element, pressuring someone into a false confession or getting a witness to straight up lie on the stand.
But here's the cool part. For every trick a liar uses, science is out there trying to find a way to expose it. And there are some amazing tools to fight back, including one that is probably the last thing you'd ever think of.
Okay, get ready for this, because this is where science feels like something out of a detective novel. We're talking about forensic palynology. Yep, the study of pollen. It sounds kind of niche, right? But it can blow a whole case wide open. Think about it. The pollen in a city is totally different from the pollen in a forest miles away. If a weapon at a crime scene is covered in the wrong pollen, boom, you've just proven it was brought in from somewhere else.
And when you look at the actual numbers behind wrongful convictions, you see just how much damage this framer's toolkit really does. We just talked about lying witnesses. Well, check this out. Perjury or false accusations play a role in a massive 57% of these cases. 57%! And official misconduct, right there with it at 54%. These aren't just little problems, they are the engine driving this injustice.
So, okay, the lie is exposed, the frame-up falls apart. What happens then? Can the people who did this actually get in trouble? Well, yeah, the system does have ways to fight back and hold them accountable.
One of the big ones is a civil suit for what's called malicious prosecution. Now, it's not easy. The victim has to prove four key things: that the other person started the whole thing, that the case was eventually won by the victim, that there was never any good reason to bring charges in the first place, and, this is the big one, that they did it out of malice.
And it's not just about getting sued. Oh no, the people who do the framing can face serious go-to-jail criminal charges. We're talking perjury for lying under oath or obstruction of justice. These laws are there for a reason, to protect the whole system from being corrupted.
But all of this, the lawsuits, the criminal charges, that's just one side of the coin. It doesn't even begin to touch the real human cost. The damage done to a person's life is it's beyond words, and it often never goes away. Just take a second and look at this number. Over 34,000 years. That's how much time collectively has been stolen from innocent people in the United States who were later exonerated. I mean, how do you even wrap your head around a number like that? It's lifetimes.
And just because you get out of prison doesn't mean you're free. Not even close. The psychological scars are deep. We're talking about crippling PTSD, constant anxiety. I mean, how could you ever trust anyone again after going through something like that? For so many, it's a life sentence of a totally different kind. And here is the real kicker. It's just unbelievable. After all that, losing years, family, everything, almost half of the people who were exonerated get zero financial help from the state. Nothing.
They're just expected to, what, pick up the pieces and start over from scratch with absolutely nothing?
And this chart right here shows you exactly why those civil lawsuits we talked about are so important. Look at the difference. The average state payout is tiny compared to what a person might get from a successful lawsuit. We're talking more than 6 times higher. For many, it's the only real shot they have at getting back on their feet.
So we've seen the problem. We've seen the devastating human cost. That's the first step. But we can't stop there. The big question is, what can we actually do about it? How do we stop this from happening? Well, experts have some pretty solid ideas.
Basically, it's about closing the doors that let these lies sneak through. For example, record every single police interrogation. That way you can see if a confession was forced. Invest in the smart science, the counter-forensics that can spot planted evidence. And this is a big one. Fix the compensation laws so victims aren't penalized just because they were coerced into taking a plea deal.
At the end of the day, beating a frame-up is like a chess match. You have to use the system's own rules against the person who tried to break them. It's all about using science and the law with absolute precision. To not just say, I'm innocent, but to prove this person lied and here's exactly how they did it.
And that really leaves us with a big, kind of scary question, doesn't it? In a world with deepfakes and AI where it's getting easier and easier to fake reality, how do we protect the truth? How do we make sure our justice system is based on what's real? That is the challenge we're all facing.